Here we are again. It's the end of the week and the end of the month, and I'm excited to share how I finished in April. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back to Ready, Budget, Go. My name is Drew, and on this channel we talk about cash budgeting, saving money, and achieving our financial goals. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please consider subscribing, hit the like button, and leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. So it's the end of my budgeting week and the end of the month, which means that it's time to wrap up April, see how I finished, and start filling in some of the entries for May. The first thing that I'm going to do, like I do every week, is do a cash dump. And so this is where I figure out how much cash I have left and where it's going. So this pouch here is the place where I keep all of my money for the week. So I try to start each week with $100. And at the end of the week, I see how much I have left, and that tells me how much I spent for the week, which I then put into my budget. So here I've got $30 left, so that means I spent $70 this week. It also means that I need to go to the cash machine or into the branch and get $70 more for next week so that I start back at $100 again. So I'm done with that. I'll set that one to the side. This next pouch is where I put all of my $1 bills and all of my coins for the week. So when I get any change back that is less than a 5, I set it aside. And sometimes even if it's a 5, I'll set it aside if it's one of the rarer letters. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But first of all, I'm going to take out all the change here. And I didn't have too much this week. I have, well, I guess I've got a little under $1, 94 cents thereabouts. And so I'm going to put this with the rest of the change that I've been accumulating throughout the year. Ugh. And what I'm doing with this is I am going to put it into the Coinstar machine at some point, either for Prime Day or for Black Friday, or maybe even just before Christmas itself. And I might do it more than once and get out an Amazon gift card, because when you do that, Amazon will pay the counting fees for the coins, so I don't have to sit here and roll them myself. I also don't have to really deal with carrying too much change around because I empty it out of my pocket every day. So that's the plan for that. I don't have a specific goal in mind. It's just whatever I end up with will be part of my Christmas spending for the people that I choose to gift to at the holidays. So that's that done. Then we've got the $1 bills. So that's also going to come out of this pouch. And I've got a ton of them. Let's see how many I was able to save this week. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, $18 going into the Christmas fund. Now, what I do with this is at the end of the month, I will allocate these to the various letters. I have a letterbox savings challenge, and you can see here how this one has a D on it. This one, well, this is another D. This one's a B. So this is based on where the dollar bills are distributed from. Not where they're printed, but where they're distributed from. And so there are 12 letters in all for each branch of the Federal Reserve. And once a month, I allocate these into that challenge. And so that video should be up this weekend, either the 3rd or the 4th. So be sure to come back for that. So I'm going to add this in with all of the other $1 bills. And I did set aside 1.5 earlier in the month because it was an H buck. And another 5, even though it's a G buck. I can't remember why I set this one aside, but I did. So I will have quite a hefty amount of $1 bills to go into that challenge here at the end of the month. So that's really good. So that goes back in here. This one's now done. And like I say, I'll unstuff this over the weekend and put it in the letterbox, so stay tuned for that video. This one is all reset for next week. So that's it for the cash dump. Now let's take a look at the budget and see what kind of bills and expenses and income came in this week. This is my budget book where I record all of my income, all of my expenses, all of my hopes and dreams. I'm not going to go through it in too much detail this week just because this is a month-end close and I've got quite a bit of tracking and reconciling to do, but I've shared more in other videos. And I'll go into it in more detail next week too, in case you're one of the many new people who have joined my channel recently. And if you're one of those folks, welcome. I'm very glad you're here and excited that you found me. And so let's go into the budget and let's see what happened in the last week of April. So, for those who don't know, my budgeting months I do by the calendar month, but my budgeting weeks go from Friday through Thursday. So sometimes there's a little bit of a mismatch. In fact, most months there's a little bit of a mismatch. And this month, April, was no different. Because today that I'm recording this is May 1st, but I'm still in the April budget because May 1st was part of the last week of April for me. So let's start recording all of the different amounts here. So paycheck 2 is the first thing. I get paid on the 15th and the last day of the month. So I got paid on Wednesday. And that paycheck, because I had a bonus, I'm going to call it, let me get the pen started here, $3,981. I'm rounding down. It was, there was some sense along with that, but I'm rounding down as I always do in this part of the budget. So my total bonus actually was around $1,500, but of course I don't get to keep all that amount. Some of it goes to taxes, some of it goes to retirement, how it works. So I still ended up with a little over $900 worth of extra money. I knew that this amount was coming, but I didn't know what it was going to be at the time that I did this April budget, which was in the middle of March. So I just recorded my regular paycheck here, and I'm going to carry this money over into the May budget. So cell phone reimbursement, that has not come through yet. It should have been here no later than yesterday. So I need to follow up with the accounting department at my office on that, but I can't do that now. It's too late in the day. So I'm going to scratch this out just because I need to get April closed. And it may even come through, tonight in a direct deposit, but I'll record it in the cash flow for May. So now I'm going to add up all the income that I had for April. So let me get out the handy dandy calculator here. This is actually a Boeing surplus because I live in the Pacific Northwest. You used to be able to go to the Boeing plant in Renton, and they had a surplus store there. It closed during the panorama, so now the only places that you find Boeing surplus usually is at thrift stores, and that's where I found this calculator. I think I paid $5 for it, and it's been kind of my companion as I do my budgeting here. Okay, so let's add the 3,070 to 3,981, and that gives us $7,051 in income for April, which I'm going to record down here as well. Now it's time to add up all of these bills. I didn't have any more bills that came in after the 24th. I didn't want to, technically I probably could have closed this out last week, but just in case there was anything sneaky that popped in, I didn't want to total it, so I'm going to do that now, and I'll try to whip through it as fast as I can here. But I may fast forward. Okay, so the whopping total here is $7. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, why is that? Because that is a vast difference from what I had planned for. And the reason is because some of these bills that I thought I was going to get ended up not happening. So I didn't get a final bill from my last place. In fact, they sent me a refund, which I recorded in the March budget. I also didn't get a water, sewer, garbage bill at my new apartment. I've recently moved, again, for those of you who are new. I also didn't get an electricity bill, so that was $150. I thought I was going to have to pay $400 or thereabouts to the IRS. I ended up getting $975 back as a refund. So, all in all, I ended up not having to shell out as much for my bills as I thought I would. And I counted that $975 in here because there wasn't really another place to put it. It's not necessarily income because I already counted it as income when I paid the taxes on it, is how I look at it. So I just counted it here as negative. So at any rate, $7 is what we have for bills this month. So that's how I'm going to record it here. Expenses or wallet, I'll come back to. I have to add up the expenses for that week, for this last week. Stockpiles, I didn't put the money toward either of the things that I had planned for. So at the start of the month, I had allocated $200 toward a sports jersey, $500 toward furniture, and $500 toward a weekend trip. That didn't happen. None of it happened. I've explained why in other videos, but suffice it to say, I found a better use for the money or decided that I wanted something else more than at least than the furniture and the jersey. The weekend trip I decided to postpone. So that's the story with that. So these are going to be zeros all the way across. So Stockpiles got nothing this month. Savings and extra debt. This was $1,000 that I thought that I was going to have to set aside to put toward some of the overspending realistically that I did in March. But I'm going to let the bills cover it because that came in so much shorter. So I'm just going to zero this, and I'm going to add up all of these other numbers. This is the money that went to my Roth IRA. Every week on Monday night, I do a game night, and on Wednesday night, I do savings challenge books. And I take that money and I put it toward my Roth IRA each week. So this month, for April, I did $1,209. So that is what I'm going to write in here, only if the pen works. Okay, so that's all I can do for now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over to the expenses. Normally I would do the cash flow tracker first, but I'll come back to that. We'll go over to the expense tracker. And I didn't take out a highlighter, so let me grab that real quick. I've got them right here to the side. And it's looking like it's going to be either pink or purple this week because I've used all the other colors. So let's do this purple one. I color code only so that if I ever go back and look at my budget in the future, I know which week went with those expenses. All right, so I have quite a few to record, and I hope I've got enough lines here. So let's start with the 25th. And I got DoorDash. Food. That was $29.61. Also on the 25th, I spent some money on Twitch, supporting a friend of mine. The less said about this, the better. We're going to call that entertainment. And that was $14.33. On the 26th, DoorDash. It was a bad week for DoorDash, let me tell you. Well, it was a good week for them. It was a terrible week for my budget. Food, $27.16. On the 27th, McDonald's. Food, well, it was coffee, but we're calling it food. $6.60. Coffee is sustaining, right? On the 28th, lots of expenses here. McDonald's again, $7.05. eBay, made a purchase there. I can't remember the last time I spent money on eBay, but I did. We're going to call this entertainment. $9.93. I went grocery shopping at the bougie grocery store. They sent me a coupon, and I ended up spending $61.25. On the 29th, McDonald's. Food, $6.60. On the 30th, Thriftway, which is another grocery store. We'll call it food. $39.33. Then on the 1st, which is today as I'm recording this, Domino's. Food, $23.13. I got carry out though. I did not get delivery. I wasn't going to pay for the $7.99 delivery plus a tip on top of it. I just went there and got it. And then weekly cash. Cash doesn't get a category because it could have gone anywhere. Mostly it goes to meals out on days that I go to the office. That was $70, as we covered earlier. So let me just count and make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, got them. Now, time to add all of this up and see what the damage is. 29, 29.61. $295.49. Okay. So before I leave this page, I'm going to color code. And again, I just do this to separate the weeks. I probably don't need to do it for the last week of the month, because if it wasn't color coded here, then it wouldn't be for that week. But anyway, it makes the page pretty. What can I say? All right, so I'm going to leave that on the calculator so that I can record it on the budget sheet. $295.49. So this is over the 250 that I had planned for this week. But given how things have been going, I decided in May to give myself $300 a week. And because I had money to spare here, up here, everywhere, I'm not going to beat myself up for it. The purchase that I made on eBay and some of the other things like going out and getting a pizza tonight. I mean, I could have cooked, but I decided to celebrate my bonus a little bit because it was bigger than I thought it might be. And honestly, it was going to be smaller, but I had to fight for a bigger bonus because the numbers came in wrong. So I fixed them and I got the extra money. So I patted myself on the back. Okay, so let's see what the total amount is for wallet spending for April. So we're going to add 240.56 for the 2 weeks ago, 276.42, and 317.12. That gives us 1129.59. So I'm over by 12%, something like that. Not horrible, not admirable, but I don't feel bad about it given all of the other savings that came in other places in the budget. So I'm going to write that down here. And I always do this one to the penny because that's how the expenses come in. So let's see what the remainder is. So we started with 7,051, and then we took off 7 for bills, 1129.59 for wallet, and 1209 for savings. So our surplus should be $4,705.41. But of course, it isn't. A lot of this went to, how do I put this? So it went to expenses that I don't track here. I have my business expenses, that is part of it. And I invested a lot in cost of goods this month. So knowing that I was going to have extra. So those will show up in the cash flow for when I repay my business credit card, but it's not something that I track and share here. So there may be a point when I am able to do that, but right now, because Ready Budget Go is running at a loss, and I mean, it's okay that it's running at a loss. I mean, I'm using other money to make up for it. But as I build up the brand and I invest in new products, because everything that I sell is professionally printed, then there's high upfront costs, and those have to be covered somewhere. So usually that's what happens. Okay, so enough about that. I am going to break the video here. We'll go back to the cash flow tracker, and then I will reconcile all the transactions that came through my bank account. Okay, here's the cash flow tracker, and basically what this is like a check register. So this is where I record all of the transactions that go through my checking account, whether it's money in or money out. And I do this to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on my checking account, because for me, I have a buffer in there, so it's really easy not to look at it all that often. But I want to make sure that I'm keeping abreast of everything that's going on with it, that there's nothing funny, and that every transaction that does go through my checking account is something that I can identify. So I'm going to write in all of the transactions, and there weren't all that many, just because this has been a really light month as far as the checking account goes. So where did I write those down? Here we go. Okay, so paycheck 2 was $3,981.40. And then for outflows, I had Affirm, which is where I financed my cell phone at 0%, and my company pays for it. So I do carry that as a debt, but I'm not in any rush to pay it off. Again, it's 0%. My company is essentially paying the bill. That's what that reimbursement is for that didn't show up. That would be here if this were any other normal month, but I've got to look into that. So, okay, so $42.79 for that. And then I had a withdrawal of $50. That was for the cash for the week. I had 50 left over, so I took another 50 out to make it 100. Then brokerage, Roth IRA. This is from Game Night and the Savings Challenge books. We hit 300 exactly this week, so that's what I sent to the Roth IRA. And that's it. So now it's time to total up the inflows and the outflows and see if we balance. So my ending balance is $5,042.83. And one thing that I forgot to mention on that previous page is that some of that overflow is earmarked for May for a savings challenge. And I'll talk about that. Well, I mean, I guess I would call it a savings challenge. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the savings section. But anyway, so for now, I've got quite a high ending balance. This is always sort of high just because I get paid on the last day of the month, and then the rent comes out on the first. So even though I get an influx of cash at the end of the month, it goes right back out to pay for rent and all the other expenses that come out on the first. All right, so let me get the calculator back out. And we'll add up the inflows first. So that's 30, 71.63, and 39.81.40. So that's $7,083.03. And then I'll add up all the withdrawals. Okay, $3,898.45. So now I'm going to add these two numbers together. 183825 plus 708303. And then we'll subtract $3,898.45, and that should equal this number here. And it doesn't. So I've messed up somewhere. 78303. I think I got this number wrong. Okay. 185825 plus 708303. Okay. And then we're going to take 3898.45 from that. $5,042.83. Okay. Phew. Goodness. Okay. So we balanced. Thank goodness. All right. So that's it for these worksheets. Now it's time to do the month-end review. And for this one, I'm going to need to get the budget out and set it side by side so I can do some comparison and some reflection. So let me grab those, and I'll do that here in just a sec. So being a lefty, I decided that the more rational thing to do would be to take the page out of the binder that I'm going to be writing on and leave the budget in there. So maybe I'll remember this next month so that I'm not writing, like this, which always tends to make my writing look a little wonky. But anyway, all right. So total income, I planned $66.40 and ended up at $7,051. Total bills, I planned $21.22, ended up at $7. Total wallet, planned $1,000, ended at $1,129.59. Stockpiles, planned $1,200, and total savings, planned $1,200, ended up at $1,209. Total extra debt payment, again, this was a carryover from March from the move. Planned $1,000, spent none of that. And then the remainder was supposed to be $118 and was actually $4,705.41. All right, so let's do some calculating here. Let's knock off the easy ones first. So this one, 2,115 difference, less Let's see. This one was $129.59 more. This one was $1,200 less. This one was $9 more. This one was $1,000 less. And then the other two, I'm going to need the calculators. Let me grab that out real quick. 7,051, 6640. Okay, so 411 more. And then this one, 4705, 41, 118, $4,587.41. All right, so let's make some notes here, so that when I come back to this next year when I'm doing my April budget, I don't think I completely lost my marbles. Okay, so income. So this was oh yeah, okay, because of the deposit refund. So this was due to Q1 bonus. That was the primary driver why this was higher than it should have been. Bills. This was tax refund. Moving. Total wallet. This was just. I mean, there's not much that I can do to rationalize an extra $129. This was just flat out overspending. Stockpiles. This was repriority. Savings. Okay, so savings. This was a difference of $9, and this was for the Roth IRA. So I'm not going to worry about $9. Total extra debt payment. This was covered elsewhere. And then the remainder is just far fewer expenses. Okay. So let's review what went well. So I got a tax refund. That was an unexpected windfall. I planned for the worst case. So, even if all of these things had come to pass, I at least had a plan for it. And I also had a plan for what to do with the money that was left over, if there was any left over. And so we'll talk about that when we talk about the May budget here in a sec. And then I calmed the budget down after the move. So in May, things will start to really settle back down. There was a lot of overspending in March. There was a lot of underspending in April. And by underspending, I mean a lot of things that I thought were going to happen didn't happen, or they were covered in March with the overspend. So now things should start to get on a more even keel. What needs improvement? Um, well, I need a bigger wallet budget because I overspent every week except one. Not by a huge amount, but enough to say, okay, this is now a trend. I need to up my weekly allowance, essentially. And I did cover that in May. Covered in May budget. Also, some of the dates for my bills are wrong. And I need to watch those. So, for example, renter's insurance I thought was going to come out on the 1st. It didn't come out today, and I don't know when it will. So I need to look and see when it actually came out in April and then fix that in June when I do that budget. So, renter's insurance and also PUD, which is electricity. I don't know when that date is going to be, but it was not the 5th. I think the bill is generated on the 5th, excuse me, or they take the reading on the 5th and then they send the bill a few days later and then it's due sometime after that. So um, it won't be the 5th. It'll be at some point in the future. So, and I think everything else, though, pretty much lines up. So there's that. And then things to remember for this time next year is to check GoodRx. for prescriptions. And the reason I write that is because I had planned for $150 in prescriptions, and what I actually spent was half that. And the reason is because I'm on a high deductible health insurance plan. And so when I get refills on my prescriptions, it all goes to the deductible. But I would rather have the lower price if I could. And, the deductible, I'm probably not going to meet it anyway. So I need to get better at that for that in the future. So, okay, so that's it for the month end review. So I'm going to put this back in the binder, and then we'll just talk briefly about April, or about May rather. Got April on the brain here, because I don't really have all that much to input for May. The only thing that I can write in here for now is rent. That was as expected, $17.92. Water, sewer, garbage, I had planned for $120, and it was definitely not $120. Let me look at my notes here. It was $7. And the reason it was $7 is because I got I got billed for 2 days of service. So it was the first 2 days that I lived here in March that I got billed for. So I will get the rest of March and into early April next month. And from then on, it should be a full month of bill. But extrapolating this into what it would have been for a full month, $120 should be about correct. So that's what I planned again, or what I will plan again for June. And then if it ends up coming in higher or lower than that, I'll fine tune it as I go. Orca, I did put $50 on that. Orca is the regional transit pass here, so I put $50 in my Flex account for that. Like I said, renter's insurance did not come out on the 1st. I thought it would. It did not. So when that comes in, I will record that here. But other than that, that's about all I can do for May. So now let's go over to the savings section, and I'll talk about my IRA and my big goals. All right, so here's the savings section. I've got quite a few goals and challenges that I'm working on here. So the first one is the emergency fund. This is fully funded, and I bring that up only because it will become important later. I also have, this is the tracker for the emergency fund. I also have the blip fund. The blip fund is, if you're new, is a fund that I put together where this is for things that are basically not in my budget, but that come up, either something that I forgot or something unexpected, where I just need a short-term infusion of cash so my budget doesn't go negative, but it's not necessarily for an emergency. It's just an oops, basically. So that's fully funded. And again, I'm only mentioning this because it'll become important later. And then we have the monetization tracker by subscriber count. Now, this is no longer current. It was as of the date that I filled in all of these colors here. So I need to get this caught up. Essentially, for everyone who subscribes, I will save $5 toward one of my goals. And the goal that I'm working on right now is called the Big Move. And I need to put together a tracker for it and a worksheet for it. And that was one of the things that I meant to do this week and just didn't get to it. But I will have that ready by next week. And so, again, every time someone subscribes, I will save $5. So here I have a tracker toward monetization. If you don't know, when you reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and a certain number of watch hours, you are able to share in the proceeds from the advertising that YouTube shares or shows on all the various videos on the platform. So that is one of my goals, as well as saving toward the big move. So if you haven't subscribed already, I'll save $5 if you hit the subscribe button. I'm at $4.49 as of when I'm recording this video, and we'll probably, I shouldn't say, who knows. I'd like to hit $4.50 this week, just so I can get another bubble colored in, but we'll see how it goes. And then I need to get caught up too on making the contributions to the savings account where the money for the big move is going to be stored. And so I will track that as well. But like I say, I don't have that tracker done yet. The big move consists of money that I'm saving from this. This is my primary challenge now. Once my Roth IRA is fully funded, the money from game night and from the savings challenge books will also be going toward the big move. And I'm also siphoning some of my Etsy pay over there and some of the interest. So speaking of, these other accounts, both the blip fund and the emergency fund are interest-bearing accounts. The emergency fund earns about $40 in interest a month, and I'm pushing that toward the big move for now. Once I'm through the big move, the emergency fund will just continue to grow at whatever the current interest rate is then. And then the blip fund earns about $5 in interest a month, and I'm just leaving that in there. I'm not really tracking it here. I might at some point in the future, but like I say, this fund is just for if I need to pull money out for an unexpected expense. So essentially, when I do that, I'm going to be taking out the interest, and then when I go to repay it, I'm only going to repay it to the $2,400 goal amount. I'm not going to put the interest back. So it's sort of like an additional buffer, like a buffer on the buffer. Okay, so that's it for those goals. Now, I also need to talk about my Roth IRA because I did contribute on the let's call it the 29th, $300. I keep forgetting to do this as soon as I've recorded the videos because usually I do those on the weekend. And I know it's not going to go through right away because obviously the markets are closed. So I end up doing it at some point the following week. So that means that so far this year, I've contributed $2,321 toward my Roth IRA. I'm not tracking whether it's going up or down. I had money in my Roth IRA already from previous years. So I'm not monitoring, the fluctuations of it. I'm just looking for how close I am to hitting the cap, which for me this year is $7,000. If you've not yet reached your 50th birthday, you can contribute $7,000 to your Roth IRA up to that amount each year, or this year anyway. And if you are 50 or older, then you can contribute an additional $1,000 for a total of $8,000. If you like this tracker, the Sloth IRA with all these cute little sloths here, it's available on my Etsy shop. And when you purchase it as a digital download, you will get this version and you will get the $8,000 version. So regardless of which band you're in, you have the right tracker for it. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is get out my little stamper here and mark off 3 sloths for making the contribution this week. So there's 1. Oh, I'm terrible at this. 2 and 3. Yeah, getting them centered on the sloth and on a line is not my strong suit, but that's okay. The important thing is that I'm tracking my progress and that I'm making progress. So I think that's it for what I want to cover for this week and for the month of April. It was a very good month, as you saw with my budget. I'm very pleased with how things went and that I have the money to put toward the big move for this, not this tracker, for this tracker. And I will have a worksheet ready next week that shows what I've contributed and when and how close I'm getting to the goal and where those sources of income are coming from. I'm also going to hopefully have some kind of a tracker for my Christmas money because I've got a lot of different sources going to that too. My goal for Christmas this year is to fund it with essentially found money or money that would otherwise just kind of slip through my fingers. So I've got, for example, a Target gift card that I received as a birthday present. So that's going toward Christmas. I've got the loose change, I've got the $1 bills and occasionally a $5 bill, and a few other sources that are going to eventually make up my Christmas fund, credit card rewards, things like that. So I'll be hopefully ready to share that next week, and I'll have the Letterbox challenge video out this weekend where I will stuff all those $1 bills into their various envelopes and trackers. Monday night will be game night. Wednesday night will be the savings challenge books, and then I'll be right back here again at the end of next week, hopefully on Friday, might be Saturday, with the recap for how the first week of May went with my budget. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Again, I'll save $5 if you do hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment down below. And until I see you in the next one, take care.